I'm going to increase the dilemmas by asking the audience to ask questions. So this is the way I'm going to do it, because I know I can sense the sensitivity in the room, and this is a very sensitive subject. So I'm going to take a few questions from the floor, and then I'm going to direct those questions to this esteemed panel. So who would like to ask the question? And the way I will do it, to be fair, we'll have a female first, then a male, then female, and then a male. So I can see a female hand up there, and I can see a male, I think he's a male. I just went to a gender-neutral toilet today for the first time. So I'm learning the art of the Norwegian. If you can try not to make comments, we'd like to hear questions, because I would like you to direct some of those questions to this very esteemed panel. It's not every day we have such esteemed panelists here, so please don't make comments. Very sharp questions, and then we'll direct them to the panelists. Go ahead.
I'll be brief and add right to the question. My question is, in these days, in some countries, we see now discussions or legislation for widening the definition of anti-Semitism and anti-Semitic by also including Zionism and criticism of Israel. So my question would be, how do you think that is combined with being liberal democracies and the freedom of speech, how that would affect this freedom of speech? And if you have any concerns about these strategies backfiring and actually fueling more anti-Semitism. Thank you.
Great question. Stan, I think you had your hand up. This gentleman here.
Yeah, thank you, Shaukat. I actually had a question for His Excellency, or better to say maybe now Our Excellency, since we're so used to ask you questions, about what you said regarding the freedom of speech. Because I think Mr. Taufik, he really nailed it by actually saying the quote, the human rights from the West are not the human rights for a lot of people in the global South. This is also my experience that I have when I travel abroad to Argentina, to Morocco, to Turkey, to a lot of countries actually. And especially, I think the situation in Gaza with Palestine exposed the whole hypocrisy about this freedom of speech in the West. We have to be really honest. When you see, for example, in the UK that people are getting in custody because they say the sentence from the river to the sea, but at the same time, the Zionist people can say this, there is a kind of hypocrisy. In Belgium, people got literally in custody by manifesting on the streets. In France, protests are banned in public. In Germany, people just with a kafir. Even Jews themselves are being taken in custody because they claim to, let's say, be anti-Semitic. So we live in a time where even Jews are being, let's say, insulted by being anti-Semitic. We're in actually crazy times. So my question to you is, sir, if you see that this, let's say, hypocrisy is going on, how can Europe restore itself? Because we cannot claim to be the leaders of the freedom of speech and human rights in general, but at the same time having these problems in our own continent. This is actually my question.
Thank you so much. I think these two questions are very similar. I'll take one more question and then we'll come back to the panel. Sir, quick question. Actually, we need a female. Unless you change your gender. Luca.
My question is related to the situation in Indonesia, because you mentioned that there is some criticism on the Western human rights, and so I was wondering if in Indonesia you are facing similar problems or not in the first place, because maybe the questions there are a bit different. I mean, it's according to the Muslim laws, I believe, and so do you feel that religious minorities live quite peacefully there in comparison to the West or not? Is that why they are people are not necessarily prone to want to associate themselves with the Western view? That's my question. Thank you.
So if I could start with you regarding the Western or post-October the 7th reaction within the framework of the law, certain